Hello everyone out there and welcome to the Python training. So in the last movie we talked about the list and here we go on to the tuples. So what's so extraordinary about the tuples? It looks exactly the same that we talked about the list with the example in the line number 4, 5 and 6. You can already see that in the tuples, we are allowed to have same types of data and also we are also allowed to have multiple types of data. That is a combination of strings and integer in this case, but there can be others as well. So what makes them different from the list? When we already have a list, why do we need a tuples? So the only difference between the both of them is the immutable and the mutable objects. And let me just say by putting this that tuples is a sequence of immutable object. That means they cannot be changed. They are not flexible. I repeat myself again. The tuples are not flexible. They are immutable objects. You cannot make a change once you have declared them. But again, the question arises, hey, programming is all about being flexible. So why do I want to restrict myself from not editing the data after on? Yes, you are pretty much right, but when you will realize and you will code quite a lot, you will realize that you sometimes want to restrict your own flexibility. Putting that into an example, let's say you are opening up a bank account and the customer gives you his name, you give him an account ID and SSN, that is the social security number or PAN card in some cases. Now, do you really think that this crucial and critical information should be changed over the period of time? Not at all. Once this is set, it should always be set like that. So this is one of the points where we want to restrict our usage, and tuples are one great way to have that. Once you have declared the tuples, that's it. You cannot modify that over the course of the program. Now let's try to hit a couple of more things. Let's say I have a tuple number 4 and I want to declare an empty tuple. That's how we do it. And if you want to have a tuple with only one value, now this is a bit tricky. If I say tuple number 5, if you want to have just one element, a single element in the tuple, you just write it 4. Let's say that would be the one element and put a comma after that. You don't need to put anything after the comma, but if you'll just put a 4, that means you are saying it is a sum function. But when you say that tuple is like that, you need to make sure that you put a comma. Of course, I missed out an equal sign after that, and that should really be not the case happening out here. And there we go, we fixed it out. So if you want to declare an empty tuple, this is how you do it, just a pair of parentheses. If you want to have just one element of the tuple, because it is tricky, you will need it. That's why I'm discussing it. Again, you cannot put anything into the tuple or you cannot update them. Printing out the tuple is really simple. It's just like the same. You want to access one element of the tuple. You can access it by the same method. Let's say I want to access the second element in the tuple 1. Let's save that and run this. I can access that by Python run. It's 2 in the tuple 2. And again, I really missed out it. What it is happening out here, that we are having a tuple 1 and we are trying to have a second element. So let's count it. 0, 1 and 2. So that's it. The second is being answered. Okay, so far so good, but what's the thing that is restricting the tuple from being so much popular, although they are quite popular? So it's all about the updating and deleting of the element. Let me just show you by putting it into an example. Let's say I call it as tuple 1 and I want to make an addition. Over the course of time, I realize that I need to edit some of the value in the tuple. So I say 4, 5. I hit enter, save that, and if I want to print it, and if I say tup1, now notice what happens. If I run this, now I have lost my previous data. Now the thing I was saying was not about this. You can update the entire tuple, but you cannot change the already built-in tuple. A lot of people just confuse it that, hey, I can update the tuple. Once I've declared it, I can declare it again. But remember, you are changing the entire tuple in that case. What I was talking about is something like this. I want to change one element. For this, I have to first of all remove this because we don't need this. If I want to say that in the third position of the tuple 1, just update the value with, let's say 3. So what I need to make sure that I place it down something. And notice as I do something like this, it gives me a warning. And if I expect it, it says expecting something. But let me just finish up the syntax. I would put up like this and I would say 3 comma and save that. Now let me just hit a run button here and you can see tuple object does not support item assignment. Now what is the reason behind that? If I just remove this comma and save that and run that again, notice again tuple object does not support item assignment. What does this mean? It says you cannot modify the tuples at all. That's all what it's saying. Now there are a couple of syntax we'll talk about later on. You will see that this is quite a lot. Again, if I say that, only the error type is going to change and it will prompt an immutable error that says object are not item assignment. Again, has simple syntax, but all the thing that you should be taking out here is you are not allowed to have changes in the tuple. If I want to delete the tuple, I need to delete it entirely, entire reference of the tuple1. I cannot just say delete this part of the tuple or that part of the tuple. Of course, there are no much things about the tuples to discuss. We don't have much of the inbuilt functionality like append or delete because we are not allowed to do that. Of course, you have indexing, slicing of that. You can start the count from the right by using the negative count and pretty much all those things which are feasible and which allows you to just have some part of the tuple is allowed, but you cannot make any changes. Of course, I'm being a bit vague in this movie, but this is how it works. And only thing that you should be taking care is that the tuples are immutable objects. You cannot change them. You can compare them. You can find the maximum element. You can find the length of the tuple. You can find the minimum element of the tuple, but you cannot change them. Once you have declared, that's it. We have to deal with that.